Today's video is brought to you by me, Jeff Hicks, and my new book, Tits and Art. Tits and Art, or TNA, is my new annual project. It's a big 11 by 17 full-color book busting out with beautiful women and beautiful art. Signups are live now, and the campaign begins on September 9th. It's only live for 30 days, so I can guarantee delivery by Christmas. Sign up today, link in the description below.
The following is a World Class Bullshitters exclusive.
I've never seen this before. I've never seen Google ask me if I wanted a side of racism with my Lord of the Rings. You probably think I'm joking, but when I Google the Rings of Power, I get this. The main talking point in modern entertainment is diversity. Everywhere you go, you hear about diversity of X, the diversity of Y, and after a while, a pattern forms. October may be inventory time at Statler Toyota, but September is fantasy month, as the biggest properties are back. Both Game of Thrones and The Lord of the Rings have new shows out, but the narrative around one is far more nefarious than the other. Racism is a word that sells these days. It's almost a buzzword at this point, like diversity. Historically, powerful words are losing their significance because of their overuse. They lose their power and their association becomes groan-inducing instead of eye-opening. The last few years have been a ridiculous cycle of outrage marketing. Outrage marketing is where a company will produce a product they know will piss people off, and they'll hope that enough people talking about it will still make it successful. It happens all the time. Comic books are a prime example of this. Marvel and DC will produce comic books that anger fans for a multitude of reasons, and when fans don't like what these companies produce, writers jump to Twitter to call the fans racist and all the other bullshit. It's tiresome, repetitive, stupid, pointless, and boring. This tactic has failed countless times, yet Amazon is using it again for their new Lord of the Rings show. But this one ends a little differently. There's a playbook for all this stuff. It doesn't have a name, but I like to call it Hollywood's Guide to Fucking Up Your Favorite Properties. Now, fuck up is a subjective term, like death or explosion. They're sort of vague, so I'll just refer to it as the playbook for now. But it's the same shit, different day, and now Lord of the Rings is up at bat. I'll spare you a history lesson, but just know that this book is more worn out than Biff's copy of Gray's Sports Almanac. Ooh la la. Staring down the trolls, what's really behind the battle over the Rings of Power? If some of the negative discourse surrounding Amazon's Lord of the Rings of Power sounds familiar, it's because we've been here before. So many times. While backlash campaigns of revival popular franchises have been growing in the past few years, particularly when those projects touch on inclusivity, the digital trolls seem to have dialed up their intensity in the lead up to the Rings of Power, which finally arrives this week, after years of development. The good news? Outside of that small subset of fandoms, or in some case of people who have their own more nefarious agendas, the effort doesn't seem to be making much of a dent in the high expectations of the series. It might be tempting to chalk up these social media skirmishes to a fight between loyal fans who simply want to preserve the integrity of the thing they love and a multinational corporation looking to cash in on that devotion with little understanding of what work inspired it. And to be fair, that's partly true. By all accounts, the Rings of Power will be the most expensive series ever made. Amazon didn't commit to an estimated $1 billion, literally, that's not hyperbole, on a 5-season order without expecting to see a return on the investment. What former Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos wanted was his own Game of Thrones, as his one massive fantasy franchise is the same as another. Let's not pretend that the primary goal of this production isn't to add to the company's bottom line. To think any differently would be naive. Some fans seemed wary from the start, and with each new publicity hit, the divide between those who are excited about the new show and those who have decided that it will be a disaster grows wider. The criticisms have been all over the map, with varying degrees of integrity. Tolkien fans with deep knowledge of the works have picked up on quite a few changes in the characters and the history of Middle-earth. What they're essentially wrestling with is the Ship of Theseus question. How many elements can you swap out in Tolkien's text and still claim that it comes directly from Tolkien? The discussion is further complicated by the fact that the author died nearly 50 years ago, so how can anyone presume to know what he would have done or wanted today? These are legitimate, rational debates, and there's nothing wrong with having them in good faith. There are other critics, though, with more nefarious motives. Well, that's the real crux of this. And fans don't like unnecessary change. Fans also don't like any change in the name of a property created by someone else. Things like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings are sacred. They're part of modern mythology, and changing them angers people. What gives these people the right to change the work? Just because they spent the most money on it? Doesn't mean they can do whatever they want with it. And there's been a lot of talk about this as of late. And even Elon Musk has chimed in on the situation, bashing the show, saying Tolkien is turning in his grave. In another tweet, Musk went on to write that he disliked the show's male characters in particular. Almost every male character is so far a coward, a jerk, or both, he tweeted. Only Galadriel is brave, smart, and nice. Amazon has invested $1 billion in the Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power series inspired by the world of J.R.R. Tolkien, and a former company executive told Insider the company will use the show to determine if Amazon Studios is a worthwhile venture for the company. You don't need to be a billionaire to see what's going on here, though another billionaire would like you to think otherwise. Random question. You wouldn't want the Mona Lisa painted over, would you? Would you like to see Van Gogh get revamped? How about some digitizing with your Degas? What if Banksy got to touch up the Sistine Chapel? If you don't see the point I'm making, Lord of the Rings is art like these other established works and should be treated as such. Adapting a book is wonderful when you do it like Peter Jackson did, but this Lord of the Rings show only exists to make Amazon money. That's the secret word of this video. So if you like secret words, watch me on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a game we play. Join us. It's all about the money. Fans know the property better than the rights holders, and fans don't like change. How do you discredit those credible opinions? You put them in a basket with all the deplorables and make sure that their opinions are irrelevant. These anti-fan campaigns exist when a company needs something to go on for a long time. The narrative surrounding The Last Jedi was how toxic the fans were. It was extreme, but we, the fans, fought back. That anti-fan narrative ended around the build-up to the rise of Skywalker, replaced by the end of the saga. Amazon has $1 billion sunk into the Rings of Power, making it the most expensive show ever, and we know it's all about the money. Amazon has 5 seasons planned, and they need to fight the fans because they can warn other fans to avoid the show like the plague. And now let's see how Amazon is combating that. Amazon confirms new review system preventing users from leaving feedback on The Rings of Power until 72 hours after its premiere, claiming waiting period introduced to stop review bombing from trolls. Its existence confirmed to Variety by an Amazon representative on September 2nd after users of all opinions towards the series noticed that their criticism was not only being automatically listed under The Rings of Power, but the company's new system now requires a 72-hour pass after a film or series premieres before users can leave it feedback. According to the trade news outlet, if a review is left within a 3-day debut window, each critique is then evaluated to determine whether it's genuine or a forgery created by a bot, troll, or other breed of digital goblin. What the fuck? Further, the representative revealed that though it was discovered just recently thanks to the premiere of the multi-billion-dollar bastardization of J.R.R. Tolkien's seminal fantasy work, the system has actually been in place since August 12th, with its first test subject being the streaming platform series reboot of A League of Their Own. Variety pointed out the stark contrast between the series' 84% critical and 34% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes as evidence that The Rings of Power would, and in fact has already been the victim of review bombing. What the fuck is a digital goblin? It sounds awesome, but it comes from a place of stupidity. It's getting harder and harder to have your voice heard these days, but it's easier and easier to take your money. Now this is flat out bullshit on Amazon's part. If you're watching this show, you're already a Prime member. Amazon knows your watch history, Amazon knows your purchase history, and Amazon knows your browser history. They know you, your credit card number, and your address. How the hell is this necessary? This is a lie to weed out bad reviews and make the show look better than it is. Let the show stand on its own merit. It looks like $1 billion can't buy you quality, but it can buy you an army to shut up anyone not happy with your show, legitimate or not. This whole thing is a big scam, a big old money scam, and Jeff Bezos' big bald head is at the fucking top of it. The dude, Amazon, they're like a real-life LexCorp, and he's like a real-life Lex Luthor, though about a foot shorter than Lex Luthor would actually be. Amazon is just promoting the ideology of this show to make money, to test out the viability of Amazon Studios. So this show doesn't deserve any kind of reverence, respect, or anything like that. It's all a big test. $1 billion to this guy is nothing. So they're going to use Lord of the Rings as a tester, and they're going to find a way to socially engineer a positive review to make a show look like it's better than it really is. I don't trust Amazon for many reasons, but I like Prime even less now. Why isn't my voice relevant within the first 72 hours? I watched the show. If I liked it, I want to tell it right now, so it recommends me more or less of this. If I just so happen to catch A League of Their Own on opening night and I didn't like it, why do I have to come back in 3 days to tell Amazon? They're hoping I'll forget. They'll still track the numbers that I watched it and all the other positive metrics, but they'll tell me that I'm not allowed to have my opinion heard until 3 days later. So you know what? I'm just not going to watch half of this shit. Look, I'm not going to cancel my Prime subscription because I'm some fucking culture warrior, some angry, pissed off whatever. I'm not going to do anything to ruin my way of life over Lord of the Rings. So these are your 3 questions for today. 1. Are you watching The Rings of Power? 2. What do you think of Amazon deleting the reviews and making you wait for 72 hours? And 3. Do you think it's a scam like I do? Jeff Bezos is able to be more transparent because we all know what kind of asshole he is, but this is the same stuff that Disney pulls. It's the same thing that other big multinational corporations, as they put in these videos or in these articles, pull. It's the same playbook. So class, make sure you highlight this page because it's going to be relevant on the test in the future. Thanks for watching today's video. Yes, it's over, but don't cry because there's more, a lot more from World Class Bullshitters. And there's only one way to get it. Hit that subscribe button below. When you do that, you'll get notifications and updates from World Class Bullshitters every time we go live. Basically, you won't miss anything. And if there's one thing I hate, it's FOMO. But the thing most people hate more than FOMO is fear of missing out on World Class Bullshitters, because there's just some things you can't undo. So folks, do yourselves a favor and never miss anything from World Class Bullshitters. One last thing before you go, hit the thumbs up button. Not for our egos, no, they're big enough as this, but it does help us fight the algorithm here, and well, it's man versus machine, and that's the real fight. But if that's not your battle, that's okay. There's one last way you can help WCBS, and that's going over to shopwcbs.com, picking up a t-shirt, a beer glass, a sweatshirt, a poster, all sorts of ways to back WCBS. The difference between us and other YouTube channels is I'm the artist that makes all this stuff, so if you enjoy art beyond t-shirts, you can even read our comic books. We got it all. We're called the epitome of pop culture for a reason, and no, again, it's not for our egos. So folks, make sure you're involved with every aspect of World Class Bullshitters, not just for us, but do it for yourself. We're making the change in entertainment everybody out there wants to see. And a special thank you goes out to all of our wonderful patrons who make this content possible. Go to patreon.com/worldclassbs to get involved and help out the channel.